from hills and plains throughout all the land. People are singing a joyful refrain. My name is Bill Jamerson. I present a program called Dollar Day Boys, the Civilian Conservation Corps. This was a Franklin Roosevelt program in the 1930s, employed over 3 million young men, 17 to 25 years of age, put them to work building roads, our state, our national parks, planting our forests. It's an enduring story, one that touches the hearts and lives of so many people. I stumbled on this story back in 1992. I produced a documentary film for public TV called Camp Forgotten. It aired on 60 stations. I went on to make 9 other films, but the CCC boys kept inviting me to their chapter meetings, to their reunions, to their conventions. And so I wrote some songs for them. Ended up making a CD with a dozen songs, and I share these songs in my program. And in 2007, I wrote a novel about one of my CCC friends. It's a historical novel based on his life, and I read excerpts from this book. People love these stories. By the way, I also dress up in my CCC outfit, my cap, and brings it to life. The reason these stories have such meaning is they're underdog stories. They're about young men coming from very impoverished backgrounds. I met a fellow in Georgia who told me, he said, when we showed up at the bus stop, none of us CC boys had any shoes. We were all barefoot. They signed up for these programs because they were paid $1 a day, but $25 a month was sent home to their families. They would send their sister to college, that paid their parents' mortgage on their homes. They did it out of love. And I can't help but emphasize that, because otherwise they wouldn't have stuck it out. It was just miserable work oftentimes, fighting forest fires, working in 20 below zero weather, working in bug-infested swamps. I ran across a story of a cook who was throwing out a dozen boxes of stale cereal. One fellow got permission to go home on the weekend, put it in a gunny sack, hitched a ride on a freight train, rode it 8 hours in the dead of winter, jumped off, walked 19 miles to his family's home so his brothers and sisters could have that stale cereal. This is the type of love that they had for their families. One woman told me in Neenah, Wisconsin, she said, I was just 14 years old. My brother begged for one of us in the family to come visit him. My dad couldn't for some reason. She said, I didn't have a driver's license, but I borrowed my dad's truck, drove 40 miles, picked him up, and took him out to lunch on a Saturday. She said, as I told him stories about the family back home, tears were coming down his cheeks. These young men love their families. So I tell these stories, and I have lots of fun songs I share. One night these fellows snuck out to go for a swim in the creek late at night. Walking back, they got chased by some dogs. They thought those were wolves. Late at night, some dogs chased some boys up a tree. They stayed up in the branches wondering how they'd all get free. I tell stories of how the guys met the girls. Cute stories. One woman told me, she said, I never forgot I was at an ice skating rink and there were 3 CCC boys trying to tie my skates at the same time. I tell stories about how they would go out Saturday night and go dancing. You could buy a dance for a nickel. You buy a little ticket, and the local high school girls would have a leather pouch tied to their wrist. They'd take that and they might make 2 or 3 cents a dance. And they love to dance. It only happens once a week, but oh, that feeling is so sweet. It's Saturday night, we're going on the town. So we have lots of fun. We tell these stories. We invite people to bring artifacts. People show up with scrapbooks, pennants. I had a fellow show up with a pair of snowshoes made in a CCC camp. A woman brought a basket made at a camp. And of course, the food is wonderful. I encourage the sponsors to bake CCC cookies, oatmeal, raisin, ginger, molasses cookies. Oh, the spreads they bring. So we have lots of fun, and word gets around, and it's a great tribute to these young men who gave us our parks, who gave us our forests. And it's a program you won't forget.